when stupidity sets in is actually when you're aware of that you're not putting in what you have, you're not showing up, and you choose still not to do so anyways.
Yeah.
Don't get yourself down for only having 40%. Beat yourself up for not showing up or not giving that 40% that you have. That's the stupidity that can hop on.
This is Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. We are the #1 business show on the planet with over 1 million downloads a month. Taking the BS out of business for over 6 years and over 400 episodes. You ready to start snapping necks and cashing checks? Well, it starts right about now.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Right About Now. We like to say if it's radical, we cover it. There's nothing more radical than my friend, founder and CEO, Rick Jordan. What's up, Rick?
What's shaking, man? It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for being on. How
awesome
are things?
To be on. I like that this was like a pleasant surprise today, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what's happening?
Dude, it's a good world. And I tell you, the things that's grounding me these days is, anybody I talk to is like within like all the chaos, of taking a company public, continuing a personal brand. It's like all the hardship that comes about it with lawyers and auditors and everything else and the SEC. It's like, I'm still the one that gets to do this. You know what I mean? So it's like, There's not a lot of people that do. And that's what grounds me, dude.
Exactly. I mean, it is interesting. It's funny you bring up, like, sometimes we do things that are really big.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't do. But and you go through that journey and you want to think that you're enjoying it and appreciating it, but you don't pause often enough, maybe not to soak in, I'm doing so great, but more like, am I really getting the full impact of what this means and what it is and all that? I do that sometimes. It sounds like that's what you're experiencing a little bit.
For sure, brother. I mean, you probably do that a lot, like I do. It's in those moments. You go from a couple million in revenue to now 8 figures in revenue, but even breaking that million the first time, it's like you don't fully realize that. So I'm trying little things. It was like last year. Did my first $2 million deal in a single deal, like a sale, right? And I bought myself, because I already promised myself I'm going to buy Macallan M. I'm a big Scotch fan, always have been, and especially of Macallan. And so I still have that bottle. It's a $6,000 bottle of Macallan M, and that was meant to kind of savor the moment of it. Not everybody has to do this, but it's even the watch I'm wearing today is a Panerai. It's a limited edition. It's 6 of 1,000. And I bought it when we went public as a milestone piece. It's kind of got a green gradient face. And the guy had it tucked away in the back of the Panerai boutique. He's like, I think I got the one for you. I'm like, well, it's green, dude. That's green is money, and it makes sense for going public, but in a way it's I was matching it. And I try those little things to savor those moments and actually zoom out a bit to be an observer of actually what's happening right then. I'm not good at it all the time, but these little milestone things help me out a lot. Yeah,
I love it. So I know you're all about going all in. So let's set the table for our audience.
Yeah.
Let's give them, I know we could talk for 2 hours about your background, but, let's give them some highlights, about who is all in Rick Jordan.
Yeah, that came up. I was thinking back, right when I figured out what's my core value. Who am I? And this was 2018, and it's because you try to go through the things you're talking about in the bio, right? It's speaker, author, entrepreneur, tech executive, business owner, all this cybersecurity expert, AI expert, all of that. And it's those are things about me, but it's not who I am. And I started reaching back to, I was training a salesperson when I was working with Best Buy. Because I was the very first Geek Squad agent in Chicago in 2003 when they launched that. And I rolled out the entire nation of Canada, literally teaching them how to sell. And I would teach these individual business representatives. This dude was in my car and he'd only known me for a month. And I don't even remember what it was about, dude. I just started going off on something in a very good way. And I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I just get passionate. He's like, well, Rick, what I know about you so far is that anything that you actually put yourself into, you just go all in. So don't apologize for being passionate about it. That's who you are. This was a guy that I was training. So I remember going through that exercise of who am I? back in 2018, and that popped in. I'm like, that's who I am. Whatever I do, it's giving whatever I have to that. And I've refined it a little bit, dude, because I mean, you and I, dude, I mean, we both had our ups and downs, right? You know, good days, bad days, great revenue, no revenue, losing cash, no income, getting laid off, you know, any sort of legal trouble or anything like that pops up, you know, the taxes, whatever. You know, we go through those things and it's like you get knocked down a bit. So that definition for me nowadays is like, if I've got 100% to give today, I'm giving 100% today because that's all in. If something really shitty happened yesterday and I've only got 40% today, like maybe I went on a bender last night with some tequila or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
It's a funny example, but maybe I only have 40%.
Relatable.
Yeah, exactly. If I've got 40% to give today and I give that entire 40%, whatever reason that 40% is only there for, that's still all in for that day. You know, so it comes to like compassion for yourself in those moments as well. Whatever you have to give is what you should give. And that's what qualifies you for being all in.
And that's so interesting. You know, I talked to Grant Cardone just recently and on the show, he's been on my show now a couple times, but like he talks about it. He didn't frame it that same way, but it's the same thing. What you're saying doesn't matter how you feel. Doesn't matter whether that's 40%, whatever. Yeah. Just show up, like showing up, like, you know, like doing it. Cause so many people like just cash it in. I won't do that, or I won't do this. Or, you know, if they're, like you said, had the tequila bender or whatever they had, they'll just not do it. And again, it doesn't mean we're always at our highest self, but you show up and you get 40, whatever, 100% or 40%, whatever that is, that's a lot of the battle, you know, that people just, you know, have to learn to sort of condition themselves to push through, right? For sure. It's hard to get to that point because that's an awareness level too. You know, and we can go on mindset talk all day, but it's like, let's be real about it. You know, I think that stupidity only sets in when I hope people are listening hardcore to this, right? Because this is like straight talk, real talk. When stupidity sets in is actually when you're aware of that, you know, that you're not putting in what you have, you're not showing up, and you choose still not to do so anyways. Yeah. Don't get yourself down for only having 40%, you know, beat yourself up for not showing up or not giving that 40% that you have. That's the stupidity that can hop on. Bingo right there. That's an unlock, you know, if people can get in that, you know, frame of mind big time. Rick, talk about, you just you just went public, dude. Like, let's talk about the business a little bit, you know, like maybe leading up to the big day. I was just talking with another company that went public, Vocodia. You know, they're an AI call center based company. They just went public on the Chicago Board of Exchange. It was cool because I got to hang out for the party. And I was telling them, like, you know, does it feel to you any different? And they're like, no, not really. I'm like, that's the whole point, right? Because business is still business as usual, except now I have shareholders. You know, I've got like 1,000 stepkids that I inherited from a reverse merger that I have to communicate with, you know, that I've got to keep up to date on things. I've got to keep informed so that they continuously invest, you know, and when you see that, it's, they hop onto the vision just like any other investor would. They hop onto the vision just like any employee would, anybody on my team, you know, because it's like in the company, we've got 78 people now, you know, growing from where we were even just 4 years ago with like 9. You know, so it's been a lot of rapid increase in this company. I still feel like a startup, even though we're public. You know, even though we've got the revenue, you know, I still feel like a startup, and that's maybe something that keeps me grounded a bit. But it's like people encourage me. So anybody who's thinking about this, first, it's a very small group of people that actually go public. You know, there's only like 3,500 companies on NASDAQ, and how many hundreds of thousands of businesses actually exist in America? You know, well over 1 million, I would think, of small businesses. You know, only 3,500 are actually listed on NASDAQ, which is where we intend to go in about a year, uplisting from OTC to NASDAQ. So some of it's mind blowing, but it's like it takes a minute to really kind of come back down to reality and be like, dude, we're actually public right now. It starts to feel a little better and a little more real as you continue with your filings and you keep going through the audits, and you have to continuously talk with the lawyers. But I mean, right away, it's like, literally nothing changed from the day we went public to the day after we went public. Has that process been messier or cleaner than you thought it would be?
It's always.
I don't know sometimes people go into things and you know it's going to be messy, so
Yep.
like you're not that surprised. I don't know, like as far as expectation versus reality, where did we fall?
Yeah, dude, it's a lot messier than what I had ever thought it would be. And there's stuff that you can just never even predict that just comes out. But it's like if you go into this, it's like whatever comes up, I'll handle it. You know you're going to be okay. The process it took. Even like in the last week, it's like the deal to do this fell apart 8 times. We had to piece it back together just in the week prior to when we closed and listed. The years leading up to that, there was a dude I knew that graduated from Wharton Business School, right? Arguably the top business school in the entire United States. You look it up, the graduates. I mean, even Donald Trump graduated from there. There's a whole bunch of other people that went there. I think George W. Bush did, or George H.W. I don't remember, but there's a whole bunch of people. You look them up, whole bunch of names everybody knows. And there's a comment that my friend made to me, and he goes, there's the rule of 3s that they teach at Wharton. I'm like, what's the rule of 3s? It takes 3 times as long and 3 times as much money as what you thought it was going to take. And I was like, dude, that's like exactly what this was, for real, because I thought it was going to be like 6 months, and, more, or a year or something like that. But then there were stages, and we raised, a couple $100,000, but that just got us through our first Reg A, which is a small public offering for a private company. And then after that is when we listed, which was another 2 years after that. So it was like the entire process that I thought was going to be about a year, and about $300,000, ended up being 3 years and like $1 million. To go
3X, baby.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, you talked about grand. It's like, let's throw that in. I'll write the 3X book. Okay.
Yeah. The 3X. Yeah. Plan for the best, or let's say, hope for the best, plan for the worst.
You got it. Yep.
Yeah.
But you look back and it's like everything that I thought was going to happen actually did, in the best way, because you still dealt with the stuff. And I was talking about this to one of my executives the other day, and it's like the way that I look at it, because you can have a solid plan. Like, I mean, Jordan, who's a mutual friend of ours too, he's got like the straight line system, and it's like how the shortest path is to get from point A to B. He's talking about sales, but when I look at it as like a strategic plan to execute on something, there's gonna be stuff when you said like it's messy, right? There's gonna be stuff that will knock you off that track. So if you're going straight and you got something that knocked you off over to the left, it's like it takes more time and effort, dude, to backtrack and get to where you were to continue to execute on that original plan.
Yeah.
Every time you get thrown a curveball, you have to reevaluate. Mm-hmm. What doesn't change is your endpoint whatsoever. Yep. And that's why everything that I thought would happen meaning like we went public. It's like there was no sacrificing, compromising that whatsoever. But when we'd get knocked off track, it'd be like, cool, let's reevaluate, because now the best plan, that straight line, is to go to that destination from where we're at currently, not go back to where we were and proceed down the original plan, because something knocked us off that plan, probably for a good reason.
And I think that's part of, and a lot of people listen that, want to be, entrepreneurs or early entrepreneurs. I think there's that resiliency and ability to sort of pivot that you have to, and willingness to change a little bit, that you've got to be able to roll with, that I think not everyone understands that shit happens. Like,
I know.
And they do. I mean, they hear it, and like fundamentally they do. But at the scale and size and that things like that happen, it's hard to convey, the nimbleness you need to have in those moments.
Yeah, it's very hard, especially when you've got a large team. Because you're the vision caster, right? As the leader, and if you say, "Hey, it's happening this way," and everybody has their mental plan according to that, and then they get knocked off base, it can cause some loss of hope, and it's getting them back behind you, because that's another thing I learned the last couple of years, man. It's like you can easily isolate yourself. I know you know this too, and try to lean on your own talents. You can go fast by yourself, but you go far with other people.
Bingo. Circle that.
Yeah, exactly. Triple that. It's and that's the part that's probably the most taxing as a leader of a public company, of a large, something big, whatever you want to call it, anything that you're doing in your life that has high impact. When you have team behind you, that's probably the most difficult task as a leader. And I've seen that in the past couple months, in the past year or so, as we've been going through this process, is keeping them with their spirits high. To set the expectation, like this is gonna not look like what we think it's gonna look like. We're still gonna get there, but it's like there's only so many hits, and some people just don't want that, dude, and that's okay. And it's like, that's fine. But it's like, whether you're here or not, and I love every single one of my people. Whether you're here or not, I'm still going to move forward. I'm still going after it. That's the difference. And that's what people need to see, is that you are just literally unstoppable in what you're going after with your dreams, with your vision. Yeah.
How, I know you've been doing a lot of speaking and coaching and, other things on the side. How's that been going?
It's been going good. I was telling my team this the other day. It's like the personal brand. I'm in the IT space, right? I have been for years. There's not a lot of personal brands, bro, in the IT space.
No,
let alone a lot of large ones. There's
Kelly Siegel.
Her name sounds familiar.
It's a him, Kelly.
Oh man,
guy, huge, like muscular dude.
Yes.
Yeah. He owns an IT company.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to reach out to him again.
Harder Than Life is his. He wrote a book, and then he's on our podcast network. He's become a good friend, good guy.
That's awesome. Yeah, connect me, please. I'd love to talk with him, dude. I'm sure he would share
small space for you guys.
Yeah,
in the personal brands area for sure.
Right on. In one way, it's almost like the blue ocean, because it's like nobody's doing it. But then it's like I still chose to step out of that blue ocean into like this larger arena of the general public when it comes to a public company. But the speaking and everything, dude, it's like that's what accelerated this, and that's what allowed the company to go public. Because it wasn't just the fact that the company was doing well, already profitable, proof of concept was there, 7 figures in revenue, everything looks great. The reason why we got our financial backers is, and they told me this a month ago, it was like 4 months after we listed. They're like, we don't want to blow smoke up your ass. But the reason why we back this is because you are the perfect spokesperson for a public company. You are literally everywhere.
Yeah.
You go on TV, nationwide media like Bloomberg and CNBC and CBS and Fox and Newsmax and News Nation. It's all of these networks that I exist on, but then I also speak places like VCon, all of these other entrepreneurial events where people can just jump on board this train, and there's even those, because my growth model is by acquisition right now, right? It's a roll up. It's making a lot of small companies a really big nationwide brand that has never existed before in this space. We're the first ones. We're the first MSP, managed service provider. The reason we're able to do that is because it's personal brand led. When I look at, it's like Kevin Harrington's on my board. We both know Kevin well. It's like you look on the chat rooms, because there's still like chat boards for stocks, and everything is like, the people that are like naysayers, the haters, it's like, oh, this thing's going to tank. We don't have filings yet or whatever and all that. But then there's others like, no, look at the team. And it's like, look at Rick and Kevin. It's like, and they like combine the personal brands there to be like, this is a powerhouse, because these guys don't just put their names on the line for just anything. And then they start to find speaking videos, right, that are out there on the internet somewhere of me, or news appearances. And of course they can find a lot on Kevin too. And it's like, look, that's their due diligence. This is legit.
Yep.
It's like speaking for you probably doesn't generate like the most income for you.
No.
Yeah. It's everything else that it supports.
It's the brand.
You got
it. I didn't know we'd get this avenue, but I'm glad we did. Like, it's back to like, you can't, people hear it, like the personal brand thing, and like, like it.
Yeah.
Some people shrug it off, or they think it's self-serving and all that. But like the influence and the power, like it's not always direct. Like it's like indirect sometimes. Yeah. It's like it's compounding. It's like there's shit that I've done or been a part of, and it was all, personal brand or awareness driving. And I mean, I've forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And I'll run into someone or something, and a connection or something monetary positive happens in my life. We'll just say that. And and they'll go, and I'll go like, I'm not even sure how this landed in my lap.
Yeah.
And someone will go, well, Tom saw you speak, or Tom follows your podcast, or Tom follows you on Instagram, or like something just random like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm like, but it checks, but it's the power that it has and the ability of these channels have unlocked. You gotta have something to speak about, and you gotta be authentic, and you gotta, but there's different strokes for different folks. So it doesn't mean you have to have a certain persona, but to not be taking advantage of that, how many people don't it's sad.
Powerful, man. It's I got a call from Chris Cuomo's producer 3 weeks ago. And they were like, "Hey, Chris saw you on Instagram."
Okay.
You seem like the guy that can talk about these Taylor Swift AI deepfakes. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I would be the guy to talk about that." They're like, "Cool, 7:30 tonight, okay?" I was in Chicago, like running the studio in Chicago, and do it there. We got your name. From someone, I don't remember, but then he saw you on Instagram. He's like, yeah, this guy's relatable. Let's bring him on. Yeah,
exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Unfortunately, I didn't go on. That's like the side thing. I got bumped by Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz ended up going on anyways. So it's like, there's still a pecking order, but at the same time, to what we're talking about, it's like I was findable. And the entire reason I got that phone call was because of my personal brand.
Exactly. And to not, if not to take advantage, to build for those opportunities, if not for that reason, then don't you want to control the narrative, of your, when everybody Googles everybody now, everybody, so they're going to go search your name. They're going to do that. And if you aren't controlling the narrative with like your own website, your own media and all that's raising to the top, which they will do, at least for now, your own profiles jump. And I don't mean controlling it like in the way that, politics controls things. I just mean like telling your real story the way you want to tell it because you're the one that's living it. To not want to just control that, if nothing else, that's mind-blowing to me too.
It is, yeah. There's a bit of like a threshold there to stay under as well. And I know you know this too. It's like when you control the narrative, control what you can put out there about yourself.
Yeah.
But then stop at the threshold of addressing every little piece of hate that's thrown at you.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like you can try to, that's not your narrative to control.
No.
Yeah. It's almost like ignore it, and now like even going public, it's like we get fun emails at PR, PR at reachoutit.com. And it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, I read some of these things. My team handles most, but then I see some, it's like, whatever. I'll just go post on Twitter again and everything will be okay.
Yeah. No, I have to really, I don't respond to most of it, but sometimes, we're all human. It's just,
I get you.
I don't know. There's so many trolls. I mean, it's just like, and they don't even mean what they're saying. They're just purely trying to get, rise out of, you, the company, or whatever it might be that there's, trolling on.
Yeah.
I'm sure you see that.
I sure do, man. I had a reel. Usually it was about trauma a little bit ago, and you see some of the fun comments that come out of that because it was divisive what I said, which I say that kind of stuff a lot, and, guys like you and I, but it was just like, there was this theme that I see with trauma, and the basic premise of it was like, it's almost the victim hole that people fall into now, it's like, oh, my trauma, that's why I did this. My trauma, that's why I did that. And I literally said on the show, as an episode of my own show, but then the real post is I just said, shut up. I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear about is what you're going to do about it. Tell me about that, and I'll be compassionate and supportive. And that was like some of the trolls, dude. I was like, whoa, this is a little over the top now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, look, we can all have empathy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, shit's going to happen. And sometimes you get a bad hand, but like, you got to make something out of it.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
If you want to stay in that fucking box forever, or you want to dig your way out of it. And there's enough helping hands out there. If people see that you're wanting to take control of it, it's one thing when, versus just woe is me mentality.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we've built, a lot of people that are in that other camp.
We have.
Unfortunately.
Here's a question for you. Okay. Cause I mean, if you look at what we met probably like 5 years ago, something like that. And there was a whole thing like around that era, like about like hustle culture, and it was like a positive thing that everybody was talking about, hustle culture. And it's, I never really got into that, speaking about it at that point, or like saying, like putting value on the amount of work that you put in. But I think a lot of people that are in our circles, that's what they would talk about, like have pride in it, like be at the office for later than anybody else, get in more hours because while everybody else is sleeping, you can be working, get up at 4 because everybody's still in bed, and it was like, what in the world? And I started talking, it's like, what I do like almost every night before I go to bed, I will pop on Netflix or HBO Max for like 45 minutes. That's about, cause it like clears my head. It allows me to think about nothing. And that's like, hustle culture. You don't watch TV if you're hustling.
Yeah.
And like, do you feel like, circles that we've been in have contributed to that toxicity?
I think so. And I do think, and I mean, most of I promote like work-life balance,
Sure.
But I think if you're working, you can work when you want to work now and where you want to work in a lot of ways, especially in, an entrepreneur in different fields. So like, I do have the benefit of being able to control that. But I think that unfortunately the narrative was go, push it all in. And I will say it's like, I struggle. I never got into like that much of that narrative. My stuff was just not exactly in any of that realm, but like at the same time, it was all around us, especially 5 years ago.
For sure. I knew you didn't. I know we see things. We're on the same page that way. Yeah.
And it's like, but it's like at the same time, it's this fine line of telling people they don't have to hustle, but you got to be fucking focused.
You do.
And you do have to work hard, and you do need to have a purpose. And it's like, I struggle of where I fall on that, because you don't want to encourage. I don't like this crowd. I don't like the follow your passion. Gary V, I love you, baby. I love you, baby. But like your passions don't always make money, and they don't always solve problems.
What if you suck at your passion?
Exactly. And so I will get on that bandwagon of, like I'm neither in the kumbaya camp or in the go, just to go. It's balance, baby. It's as Abe Lincoln said, it's moderation and everything, including moderation.
Yep.
You don't want too much moderation.
Oh man, that's great. I've never once told my kids, dude, that you can be anything you want to be. Because it's just like a freaking lie.
It is a lie.
Why would I tell them that? It's like, my oldest son is extremely coordinated. Like he would jump from landings, 10 feet up and land straight on his feet when he was like 4 years old, and then my youngest son, not coordinated at all. So it's like we've talked about swimming a little bit, right? My oldest son was a swimmer. My youngest, never any sports, but the dude has like he's 14 and he's 6'4", and has this insane baritone voice, like with this vibrato, and wants to perform in theater. I'm like, freaking go for that, man. That's your thing, but if I told him, you could be the best ball player ever. It's like, you just have to try.
No. Yeah, just try. Just try. Just have passion. All my boys love the NBA, like they're watching basketball, and a couple of them are pretty good. I don't know yet. Too young. They're, 12, 8, 13. Like, so it's like too young to encourage or discourage other, but I'm always at least honest with them,
for sure.
Like
that's just good parenting, brother, for real.
I know. Exactly. What are we hoping? I mean, with going public and all that, like, what's the next 6-12 months? Like, what's that journey again? I know you don't know everything that's coming, but like, I'm sure you have in your mind how that's going to roll out.
It's still acquiring this year. I mean, we made some strategic acquisitions, also in the multi-7-figure range. to get us to a certain point. That way we'd have a good foundation to go public. Yeah, but it's like where we're at right now is not where we're stopping. It's like a stopping off point. Not even. It's just almost like a milestone listing on OTC. Then we intend to uplist to NASDAQ or NYSE, within probably 2 years. So you're talking 6 to 12 months. It's the prep for that. And I swear I didn't even have like a chance to breathe because we closed and we listed on November 9th. No joke, like November 10th. My team of external consultants and my board, it's like, all right, let's start talking about uplisting. Like, what? Like we just listed yesterday, and now yeah, I mean, we're already great. We're doing great. We're executing on the plan. We have to start getting people involved in this. I'm like, all right, let's just keep going. So it was a moment of celebration that night, but then the next day it was like right back to it. And that's why, like we were talking before, at first it didn't even feel any different. Because like still, if you want to call it the grind, you can call it that. But it was like business as usual, still just executing on the strategy. And so this next 6 to 12 months, more acquisitions. We've got one that's coming up very shortly. That'll be the details will be in a press release after it's done. I talked about that we had another under LOI just about a month ago, and growing organic revenue. But it's expanding the brand really over the next year. Because it's being led by me, right? By Rick Jordan. But then I've also learned too, like the differences in these brands when you're trying to build something really big. It's like, because ReachOut's the name of the company and it sits underneath Rick Jordan. So it's like elevated because of me, but then there has to be a point to also, because it's a public company where it can stand on its own. And then I just become the spokesperson for that brand. So it's an interesting interchange because then it becomes really kind of like a symbiotic relationship rather than like a codependent one,
Yes.
It's kind of cool, almost like a marriage, right? It should be symbiotic, not codependent. That's that should be. It's building that team to be able to do that, putting the right people in place. It's still strategy. I'm excited for the next year because it's like now that we're post the pandemic too, it's like the movie that I made in 2020, which is a documentary, is probably going to end up going on Apple TV. This is like the personal brand stuff. Awesome. When Netflix declined it, Amazon declined it forever back in 2021 with no chance of appeal. And it was about the pandemic. I was on Brad Leach's show about this back in 2021, and it was laid out like an attorney. It's like these are literally just the facts of what happened. Not about the vaccine, it was about government overreach. And like, this is seriously what's shaking down right here. Like stand on your little circle. If you go outside your little circle, in line, then you can be arrested. It's like those things happen. And we documented a lot of that stuff. It's cool now that we can actually get it out there. But you talk about like personal brand too, man. It's like, that's one of the reasons why Lara Trump and I started talking, like a year ago, is because Eric Trump saw me on a news appearance about cybersecurity on Cheddar. And I may have dog Biden a little bit when I was on there, more like it's the job of the president to make sure we're secure. And right now this president's not, kind of like something like that. But then that just happened to be seen, so then it was like a show swap talk that we were talking about. But then what really got her won over was the movie, so it's like you talk about passion. It's like, that was a passionate thing for me. And it turned out I'd never made a movie before, but I hired a filmmaker, I hosted it, I narrated it, and it actually turned out pretty good, especially in hindsight. So I'm excited to see where that goes, dude.
That'd be fun.
Because now it's
When's
after
that launch.
Yeah.
When's that coming out?
When it gets on Apple TV, probably like 6 months.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
Yeah. There's just we completely finished it back in 2021, but now that there's a little more, it's like there's some other footage we have that we can add back in before it's put up there and actually make it even more impactful. It's kind of cool.
How was it? How was it working with Apple, to negotiate the deal and all that?
Yeah, there's a distributor that's going through, a friend of mine, David Meltzer, who I know you know too. Yeah, he's helping me with that. And it's really like through the network that he has, through the distribution network that he has to get it up there. We just started talking about that a couple of weeks ago. And he's like, it's not that hard of a process. He's like, well, we'll just walk through it. I told him about it. He's like, that sounds pretty cool. I'm like, it is pretty cool. Like we were filming in the middle of San Francisco, and it was like a zombie apocalypse. There were no cars, no people in 2020. Just a dead city. it was the weirdest, most eerie thing I've ever experienced in my life. Like seriously, like you were watching The Walking Dead, man. Crazy.
That's fucking is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never in. I mean, I'd visit a couple, but was always in more, I don't know, right leaning areas that had semi lockdowns, but nothing like those areas.
Yeah.
And
I remember curbside delivery because when we were there filming, it was great. My son was with me in 2020, and he would have been just 12. So he got to see a lot of that stuff firsthand. He was doing like some behind the scenes footage with like just a small DSLR camera, and excited to come with. But when we did because the restaurant in the hotel, it was just like a Westin or something, wasn't open, because of the lockdowns. So we called a place down the street. There was really just a bar, just to order curbside delivery for burgers, like burgers and fries. That's seriously like the only thing that was open. I'm like, whatever, go there. So we walk there. It's like a block away, and we walk up to the door, knock on it. It's like, yeah, we're here. Pick up for Rick. And he's like, you have to wait on the curb. I was like, what? Like curbside. By local ordinance, you have to stand on the curb, and we will come out and give it to you. This was California, of course. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is
you're lucky you didn't get like court-martialed over there,
for real. Yeah, no joke, man. To be in the middle and experience that firsthand, it's like I'm especially grateful that my son was with me for a lot of that.
We're gonna have memories of that shit in 20 years.
Yeah.
And like we're gonna be like, it's gonna feel like alien territory, I hope.
Yeah.
I mean, because the government's going to have a hard time ever enacting anything like that again.
For sure. For sure.
They don't know. I don't, not to get too political, but I just think that I don't think anybody's going to tolerate that again.
I hope not. There's stuff we see these days, with transgender political issues, that might pop up. I mean, it causes division right now. There's a few other things, obviously, a few sensitive topics, if you want to call it that way. Not sensitive to me. I know where I stand, and all that.
Yeah.
But for a lot of other people, it is, and it can cause some uprising. But you're right. Even like it's like I've got one of the youth leaders when I was in church from a kid, right? Black dude stood up in my wedding. He actually works for me now. Was even a business partner years ago, and I had like a multiracial. With other people too, of people standing up in my wedding years ago. And so when I say this, like even Black Lives Matter, like not just the government control stuff, but all the things that came to light for something like that, on how really that was just a for-profit business model.
Yeah.
It
doesn't matter what it was called.
Exactly.
It was just a sham.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it is not about, it has nothing to do with race. It's just, it was this total sham.
You got it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of transgender organizations that are that way.
It was
too.
a sham behind, like, if some of the things, and I don't know, like there's a lot of things that are travesties, like that should never happen, like
for sure
on all sides of gender and race and all that. Of course, no one supports that, but that's not really what the point is. The point is, like, is someone leveraging something that is or isn't true to make profit, and then being ingenuous about it, you know?
I shook my head a little bit because, I mean, what's viral today as we're recording this is Trump selling, USA Bibles.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like,
there's a lot of ideals that he has that I agree with, and I have no issue saying this whatsoever. There's just sometimes, it was even like a couple of years ago, I'm like, dude, like, you were doing good if you just kept your mouth shut. You know?
I know. I mean, it's like, it's hard to even support like half of the bullshit on all sides of this thing. Yep. That's why I stay out of politics for the most part. It's like, it's a freaking circus.
Yeah. Well, you can go buy a USA Bible if you want to.
I know. Like, yeah. I mean, but that's the scary thing. That's why I'm saying it has nothing to do with like some of the choosing a side here. This is just like, some of this is just, I don't know. It's idiocy.
I'm with you. Yep.
Yeah. Rick, where's this plane want to land? Like what's a guy like Rick Jordan, like what's happiness and all that stuff look like at the end of the rainbow?
It's like the interview question I hate asking people. It's like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I'm not asking that. I mean, more just, what makes Rick Jordan happy? What will make him happy for the rest of his life?
Yeah, man. Money not ever being a concern. I just see it as a tool. I've always seen it as a tool. I've always seen it just as a math problem, but it's a tool and a resource to fulfill certain things. It's like, I want my kids to be able to do anything that they want to do and that they're good at, of course, like that, like our previous convo, so if that means, like theater, musical theater in New York, which my daughter wants to move there when she's 18, and she's a badass too, with her voice, with her acting abilities. Same with both of my sons. It's like, if that's what they want to do, then I want to be able to support that for them 100%, which I can now. And I'm grateful for that. But it's like, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now with a public company and why I'm taking the hits, if you want to call it that way, is that there's a dude a few years ago who ran a software company, sold it for a couple $2 billion, right, to a private equity firm. And I saw him like a year ago. We caught up. We had met before. And I'm like, dude, what inspired me about you that I'm trying to model is that when you sold, there was 70 people in your organization that walked away with 7 figures. Like, you built this for a lot of people, not just for yourself. Of course you benefited, but so many others. You built a community within that. And he goes, actually, he smiles, looks down, he goes, actually, it was 120 people. It's like, I see that. It's like, I'm looking like, he's not even being cocky. He's not even being arrogant. He's just like giving me a fact that is like, yeah, this is why I did this. So whatever it is, it's like, that's why I went the public market route, because that's one of the only things that can facilitate something like that, which I have a deep desire for fulfillment, as you're saying, to do. And then as soon as, when that plane lands with the public company, which it will at some point, I'll exit. If that's 5 years, 10 years, whatever, just be chairman, be a founder role, spokesperson, whatever. Like, what's the next thing that I could just rinse and repeat, but now at an even greater scale, at an exponential scale? So it's just keep going from season to season, with those landings in between.
I love it, man. Keep growing. I mean, you just said what I tell people all the time, like, success is not a destination. Yeah. It's like, because you always, the journeys are kind of everything. That's one of those things that sounds so fucking cliche, but it's like, it's true though. Yeah. Like it's like, because once you never really land the plane. It's like, you do, then you're probably dying.
Yeah, right on.
Like, it's like,
well, even retiring, right? It's like, and that's fine for a lot of people, but it's like, for me, it's like, I take hints off of Kevin for something like this. He's in his mid 60s, and it's like, he never retired, obviously. It's like, and now he's moved into a lot of mentoring, and at that point, dude, because that's like 20 years away for me, at that point, I can look back and be like, cool, who can I help? That has and had similar passions to what I do and did to get them there. If I paid the dummy tax, maybe I can help them accomplish something in a year. Maybe I can help them go public in legitimately a year rather than 3 years, just because I did it. Maybe not once, but also 3 times,
Probably by then for sure.
Yeah.
With your trajectory. But I love the dummy tax, guys.
Yeah.
I've paid a lot of that.
Yeah. So some of it hurts more than others, dude. Some of it's like a little scratch. Sometimes it's like, I just lost an arm.
Exactly. And it's both financial sometimes and just like, the mental dummy tax.
Yeah, like the emotional side too, man.
Yes.
Some of those hits entirely. I mean, they can get you wrecked, in certain moments. And it's, but then it comes back like, this is full circle. It's like, I'm the one that gets to do this. Not many do.
Exactly. What do you do to reset? Like, what's, your kind of routines or vacations or things like, what does kind of reset you?
Yeah. It's, did this years ago, it's getting my kids away, like one at a time. I have 3 kids, twin 16-year-olds and a 14-year-old. The twins are boy, girl. And my youngest is a dude. He's a 6'4" guy. My other son, he's 6'1". He's the same height as me, but it's like my youngest, man, it's like, you're already this tall, and your arms are still like massively long. This train's not stopping right here. So he's going to keep going. But it's something I've always done since they were young. I tell this story a lot, or teach this concept a lot, is proximity. And like, that's the best parental concept I can ever teach somebody. Because even when I had the twins, like young, like 1 month old, maybe 4 weeks, 5 weeks old, like, you know what? I got to go get some deodorant. I'm picking a kid and I'm taking them with me. And it's like, I've done that ever since then. And I would just swap kids. So it's like, they've always been fans of, like Harry Potter growing up, because that was during their time period. And then, of course, Disney. So it was always a lot of weird, like a lot of IT conferences were always in Orlando. So if I would go with, a lot of conferences in general, I guess are. When I was there, it'd be like, when my daughter was 7 years old, it's like, you think you would be okay flying by yourself? It's like your mom will drop you off with a flight attendant at the gate, and then I'll be right there to pick you up when you land. My conference goes until Thursday, but what if you flew down to meet me on Thursday and we spent the weekend down here? And that started this thing about these trips all the time, a couple times a year, just one kid, that's it. I spent a lot of time with them all together, but dude, that's the reset. And that proximity, it's like even just going to pick up deodorant, which they'll still do. They'll say, hey, I have to go run a quick errand, 5 minutes down the street. And now I get, hey, Dad, can I come with you? I mean, even at 16. Yeah. Just because it's been built in, dude. And I'm telling you, it's like those car conversations are the best conversations I ever have with my kids. And dude, that's my reset. That's my grounding.
I love that. That's a great lesson for people. And it's also great, like for parents and, like it's just those micro moments.
Yeah.
And, we're all busy. Things are going on, but there's always those little moments that you can catch and do and just be, it doesn't have to be like, so I don't know.
No, or even like making sure you're there for the first day of preschool for somebody, or, it's like, it's like, they're never going to remember that.
Yeah.
What they're going to remember and what's ingrained in them is like this concept of just hanging out, those micro moments, as you call it.
Yeah. Like 200, because you're going to make 200 of those trips in the car over the years. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, that's, the one time at this one thing, like, okay, yeah, you remember that. But no, I remember the 400 times Dad and I went to, the grocery store or went down the road, whatever it might be, so
I hope entrepreneurs are listening right now, dude, because that's the balance. That is literally the balance to try to attain that. Help me. Hopefully it can help everyone else.
I know. Rick, I know you got a lot of platforms, a lot of places people can learn from you, see what you got going on. Where can everybody learn more, watch what everything that's unfolding with the Rick Jordan show?
It's after going public, some things have had different purposes now with platforms. And Instagram by far, follow me for most of my content there. For stock information and company information, that's X. That's Twitter now. Because that's the direction that platform goes. And then like all business would be LinkedIn, but I'm primarily most active on Instagram at Mr. Rick Jordan. Yeah. I'm still in my DMs personally. I'm sure you are too, man. Yeah.
Yep. I am. I mean, I have to, it takes me a long time to clear out the request folder.
Yeah, I feel you.
But
like,
I try to scan through it like once a week, like to make sure I'm not missing anything important.
Yeah.
But, like not because I'm like too important to respond, but like, sometimes it's like, if you ask me a question, I'll respond.
Yeah.
If you just put something stupid, then I'm probably not.
I feel you. I get them now because I added 2 more platforms because like those micro cap chat boards that I was talking, like there's one called Stock Twits. Another well-known one is Investor Hub, iHub. Mm-hmm. So now I created profiles there so I can engage with shareholders, but I get DMs there now too. And sometimes it's like, hey, he's not. And then there's a Telegram channel for the stocks. But they're picking up. They're like, hey, why isn't Rick replying to this? And I see that, but then other people pick us like, it seems like he always talks to us on the weekends. Like, yeah, because that's when I can catch up on this.
Yeah, you got clued in. That's when I have time.
Right on.
Just be glad I'm doing it. No, man, I really enjoyed this talk. Everybody listening, I encourage you to go check out Rick. I think you could hear it. He's a great guy, a fair voice, a true voice, an authentic voice, and a good friend. Really appreciate you coming on, Rick.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, guys, you know where to find us. RyanIsRight.com. All the highlight clips, all the full episode, the audio, the video. And, of course, you can find me at Ryan Alford on Instagram. blowing up there, and hey, blowing up a little bit on TikTok too. So go follow me over there too, at Ryan Alford. That blue check before you could buy it. We'll see you next time on Right About Now.
This has been Right About Now with Ryan Alford, a Radcast Network production. Visit ryanisright.com for full audio and video versions of the show or to inquire about sponsorship opportunities. Thanks for listening.